Hey, today we're looking at Velodrome. We're going to see if it can overtake its younger brother Aerodrome in market cap, and we'll look at the data and see where they could be, where Velodrome could be in market cap at the peak of this bull cycle. So let's get into it. Velodrome is a DEX. Aerodrome is actually built off of the same code. Velodrome was first. It's about 2 years old, and you can see pretty good price action in this thing. Market cap is 115 million at this point. So let's go to the model here. Come on, computer. So their product is token swapping and liquidity pools, and they've got a couple other products that they're adding. The innovation at Velodrome is quite impressive. They're constantly developing new products. They've launched V2 last June and then V3 this year with their Slipstream product. And I would say they're probably on the forefront of DEX innovation, and they're putting out pretty impressive projects. Very good at execution, delivering quickly. So I really like that about Velodrome. Now their market, they're built on the Optimism network, which is a layer two for ETH. If you don't know what a layer two is, it just reduces the fees and swap times of doing transactions on the network. So where ETH might cost $100 to do a transaction, for a more complicated one, Optimism would cost you maybe a buck, right? So it's a lot cheaper to use and to do transactions, which is very attractive, easier to build apps on top of, makes it more attractive to build apps because the fees go down and consumers are more likely to use it because they don't have to pay as much for each transaction they do. So the market size, though, for Velodrome is smaller, and I'll put some charts in the, especially in the Substack, and just to show that like Optimism isn't as big. Base has actually overtaken Optimism in size in the late part of March. So while Optimism's kind of stayed steady with slight growth, Base has exploded in activity, and also the competition is higher for Velodrome. There are other dexes that are already competing with Velodrome and have market share. I think Velodrome's 2 or 3 on the list of top decks on Optimism. But if the base network isn't growing, then they have a limit to the amount that they can like amount of transactions they can take on the network, right? So they got to share those with the other top dexes. So if you look at the total value locked, it kind of mirrors that. Velodrome has 170 million locked, and Aerodrome and 725 million right before this recording. So obviously, Aerodrome's seen much more growth. And if we look at the revenue projections here, so Velodrome reports very similar to Aerodrome, and unfortunately, across their 3 different versions of their dexes, they have not seen much growth at all in the last couple weeks. So the green is what is currently reported, and then below that are projections. So even if we say like altcoin season picks up and they start to gain more activity, they only have 3% growth, maybe max is what I see, and that really only puts them in 3 months at like $800,000 in fees generated. And if you remember Aerodrome, I mean they're in the millions, right? Like 4 or 5 million generated already, and they're just launched this year. So let's see. We'll come back to that. We'll go through the tokenomics. So I don't know why I have that written in there. There is a high supply of tokens. Uh, my mistake, my bad. So there's definitely a high supply of tokens, and I think they're at like 1.6 million, and they're inflationary. So it's 3.75% initially. Inflation, it does decline. That percentage declines by 1.5% a year, well, the first year, and then it'll decline like less. It's kind of like a curve, right? Because it declines, I think it's 0.1%. Don't quote me on that. Every epoch, which is every week. So it's just gonna, look like kind of a little asymptotic, but down, right? And it'll kind of like level out and over time. So it starts really leveling out. Looks like 100 weeks after the initial launch of the project. So we're kind of getting there. It looks like. Oh, but they reset the inflation when they launched version two. I don't know if they're doing it with version three too, but basically lots of inflation. They started out with 400,000 tokens, and we're up to like 1.6 billion. Might be 1.3. Don't quote me. Team though, very well docs, very respected, and they can execute. I mean, they put out three different versions of this in 2 years, which is a lot more than other platforms have done and have been able to do, and on the forefront of innovation. If you go read about their dexes, their revenue potential is solid. That's a good part of this project. Let's change this to red, and they don't have any financial partners, so they're less diluted than some others. Obviously, the risks and downside here are the growth is limited by the size of the network, so it's going to be tough for them to overtake Aerodrome unless Optimism sees some sort of insane growth. And it doesn't look like it will. It looks like Base is handily taken over Optimism's network. And let's see, Optimism has a lot of competition, high inflation, and then little growth despite the interest in altcoins. And that's the biggest concern I have, because if you look at this growth curve, like over this month, the entire altcoin market saw huge increases of activity compared to previously, right? Oh, it's like the tip of alt season starting. But despite that, Velodrome has not seen an increase in activity, like a notable increase in activity. So that's a huge concern, and it definitely factors into the comp. If we look at the market cap here, right now they're valued at 120 million, and that's off of 31 million in fees per year. That will give them a multiplier of 3.8 times. Which is pretty low, but I understand it because they're not showing many signs of growth. Now, I think the best case here for them, maybe not the best case, but like a high case for them, is that they grow up to this 800,000, 830,000 per week in fees collected during alt season. That would give them annualized 43 million in fees a year. And I'm saying a 30x just because as alt season starts to come upon us, valuations get frothier. So giving them a 30x multiplier, which I think is fairly medium, that would give them $1.3 billion valuation. Let's go down to like the real comp here, the total comp. So I gave him a peak bottom case of 800 million. I think that's achievable for him. That's only a 6.7x, $1.3 price tag on it. But I think that's doable. They're going to have to show some growth though to get there. If they don't grow, I don't think they're going to be able to get there. So it is a concern that they might not even reach that. But I think it's very doable. And then the peak bull case would be 3 billion. They'd have to show some sort of increased market share and growth in Optimism network to get there. And I think they're going to have to show a much higher multiplier. People are going to have to get excited about it, which does happen during bull runs, so it's plausible. And I think that's probably the top where they could see this cycle. Speculative potential is low because of the limit and the low volume of Optimism versus Base. And then staying power is high because they got a great team, great product, constantly innovating. I think if I manually went in there, I would put that staying power higher, and great reputation because their team is definitely fantastic. So as far as I can see, right, like you can always have bad actors, so don't ever rule that out. But just a real quick channel update. I did hire an analyst, and he's going to help me just speed up the research process. I'm still going to spend the same amount of time on my research, but he'll allow me to spend more time on the comps of the projects, what's out there in the market, what is the project doing well? Where might it, have an advantage? Looking at catalysts and some of the risks and disadvantages. And he's also a former coder, so he can maybe point out some security risks and stuff like that. So I'm excited for what's to come. And if you're still here, I would appreciate a subscription. You'll get notified the next time I put out another analysis on a project. So thanks for watching, and hopefully see you soon.